I'm delighted to say that we are joined by our CEO, Gordon Hollins, and we're going to just have a quick catch-up with him and outline the very latest happenings at what is, of course, your club. Good evening, Gordon.
Evening, Spencer.
How are you?
Good, well, thank you.
Excellent. Obviously, we've seen some good news for the club in the last week or so. Two big signings. That's quite a statement of intent.
Fantastic, and I know Andy Hurry, Director of Cricket, and Jason and colleagues have done a huge amount of work to make sure we find the right people to add to the squad. We've always said that we only want overseas players that add something different and add an extra bit of quality and who will leave the club with something special behind, and those two individuals we believe will do that. Obviously Matt's got a huge amount to prove. A year before an Ashes tour to the UK, he's in his interest to get a lot of runs and he'll be at the top of the order, I'm sure, which is great. Really pleased with that. And then of course you've got Peter, who's got huge experience, and we're excited about how he can help our younger bowlers as too, you know, like Ned and Sonny and Casey in particular, who he can pass on his experience to on match days and of course on non-match days, which is really invaluable.
It is important, isn't it, that we talk about the culture of the club. It's a player, I know that Andy Hurry is very keen on this, it's a player that's got to fit in both on and off the field, isn't it?
Absolutely right, and he's got to leave something behind for the club that makes us better. And our core, as we've said many times before, is always going to be the youth of the Southwest, but there are times when they need to be complemented by a bit of stardust to help their development and obviously help the club win, which is our aim.
Obviously, we're going through some of the questions that people have emailed in. If you are watching along via the YouTube link tonight, please do put some questions in the chat, and we will endeavour to read some of those throughout the course of the evening. You touched on the Ashes there. Obviously, it hasn't gone as well as we'd have hoped in Australia, but obviously this isn't the first England side that's not done so well against Australia, against the old foe. What have we got to do as a game to ensure that, you know, England have a fighting chance in the Ashes?
Well, there's nothing quite like an Ashes humiliation to spark a debate on every topic that's ever been known in our game across the years. The media will try and simplify it by saying it's one thing in particular, you know, whether it's the coach or the captain or the domestic structure or whatever. It's never as simple as that. There are always a number of reasons for a tour failure such as the one we've experienced. The good thing that's come out of that is that Tom Harrison, ECB CEO, I should say, has said that we need to now rebalance red ball cricket with white ball cricket in the schedule, and that's music to our ears, and I think that suits our agenda. We're a proper county cricket club who treat red ball cricket very, very seriously. 4 of the Ashes squad, which is 25%, came through the Somerset system. 2 Devon boys, 2 Somerset lads, and that's testimony to the club. We just wish they'd paid 1 or 2 of them a bit more often. Maybe the results would have been different. But we need a strong county cricket. We need it for the Test game. We need it for this club, and we'll be at the top table, really working hard to influence, to ensure that we rebalance that schedule in the way that Tom's committed to do.
Obviously, we've seen that in the fixtures. You know, county championship cricket in the height of the summer is great. You mentioned the top table there. What are we doing to ensure that, you know, we've seen various other competitions springing up around the world as well as in this country. Yeah. What are we doing to ensure that Somerset are going to maintain our position at the top table in first-class cricket moving forward? Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's been a lot written. I know Jonathan Agnew said, oh, we'll have 10 counties. We won't have 10 counties. That won't happen, but he sparked a debate. The reason we won't have 10 is you need 12 votes to get anything through the current system, so you're unlikely to end up with 10. But we shouldn't be concerned about any changes that may or may not happen. We will be at the table. I'm in London tomorrow. I'm in London again in 2 weeks' time to take part in some discussions that followed the media coverage and the Ashes disappointment. So we'll be at the table, which is the main thing, and we should be very confident in that what we offer the game in terms of developing England players, getting players who's ready to play for England, attendances, the following of cricket in this region. We should be very bullish about the role that we've got to play going forward, and we will play that role.
Obviously, membership is a huge part of this club, and we talk about the Somerset family, and excuse me, the players have talked about how important the members are to them, and, you know, seeing people in town and things like that. I think it works both ways, doesn't it? Because how good was it that we held this members' open day last week to have so many people here? I mean, it was quite an emotional event to see this room that we're in now completely full of people hanging off Andy Hurrey's every word. It was great.
Fantastic. And firstly, I'm sorry I couldn't attend. I had a family funeral in Scotland, sadly, that I had to go up for and had to prioritise. But I really regret not being here because I just love it when the real cricket enthusiasts come back. We felt it was important to have people back here in that after 2 years of, at best, disruption, at worst, isolation, that getting people back to the ground and making them feel part of the family again was really, really important. And I thank those people who could find the time to come. And we've had some terrific feedback, and it's something we'd like to learn from going forward.
Getting a few questions coming through from the chat. What are we doing to inspire the next generation of children to play cricket?
Well, I'm very clear about what our role is as a club, and we've had this debate quite a lot since I've come here, in that there is no point in us winning competitions if cricket is shrinking, because actually, when you think that through, we end up not having a club in 30, 40, 50 years' time. So it's absolutely, our agenda has to be to inspire kids and people from all backgrounds to participate in the game, whether it is being a coach at a club, an umpire, a scorer, help behind the bar, whatever. It's really important. The way we do that is by being competitive on the field and playing exciting cricket and being the centre of excellence, if you like, for the game in this region. And that's really, really important. And by doing that, it will lead to that development and growth of the recreational game, which is so important. I think the other thing to mention here is the role the members play in signing of Renshaw and Siddle, for instance. That can only happen if we have a high take-up of membership income. It comes from that money. And therefore, the more members that can renew, the better. Early bird deadline on Monday night. Don't miss out. So please do rejoin, because that allows us to invest more in cricket and also in the facilities, which make the experience for members much better.
Obviously, you mentioned it there. The early bird deadline is coming up, and the more members we get, the better the cricket can be. I think it was telling in Matt Renshaw's press release when he mentioned that the members had got right behind him, and it's something that he remembered, and that played a lot of weight in bringing him back. So it is a two-way street, isn't it?
Well, and we saw that with Devon Conway last year, didn't we? We saw it with Azza. There's a habit of people wanting to come back, which is fantastic. That's what you want. It is people who enjoy being here, add something, and want to come back time and time again. Hugely important.
Another one coming in now. Roger is asking, what will happen this year with so many in contention for international duty?
Well, I think firstly it's a good thing. I know we don't like losing our best players, but we see that the guys working really, really hard. That obviously is something that we want to capitalise on. Who knows, will we have Jack? He's centrally contracted now, but actually when you look at the schedule, Jack's going to need some practice, so that's encouraging, that we will be able to have him playing for us. I would imagine, I may be wrong there, but I would imagine he'll be available for some games. And obviously what we've got to do, and the reason we bring in someone like Peter Siddle, that if we lose a Craig or Lewis to England duties, then we've got to have backup fast bowlers, Casey, Ned, Sonny, who are there and ready, and that's why Siddle will play a real role in developing them. And of course Jack Brooks we've got there as well, and others, to close the gap is really, really important. So it's all part of the plan, but in simple terms, it would be good for the club to get the honour of their players being picked, but at the same time, we need to develop players to come in and replace them and give them the opportunity.
Absolutely. Now, people might have seen in various media this week or last week potential redevelopment of the ground. Can you bring us up to date with the very latest? And of course, the most important thing, what's happening with Brian Bacat?
Well, Brian was nearly homeless at one point, as many people know, and thankfully we managed to partner with Bradford's to construct him a new house on site. So we see a lot of him now. I find myself talking to him every morning, saying hello. He doesn't talk back, which is fantastic. Quite rare around here.
It would be a worry if he did.
So, we've got Brian sorted out, which is number one priority. But joking apart, we've got new replay screen in the far corner. Sarah Trunk's working her socks off to get that manufactured and get it in a timely fashion. That's important. We're looking at Gimblets Hill and looking at how we can improve that area for members, and also how we can make that an accessible area for people with disabilities. We're way short of standard on that, and we need to address that. It's not good enough. And that's that. And then, of course, Ian Botham Stand, Lord Ian Botham Stand. which is coming to end of life. I think people who've been in it will endorse that view, and it's time we did something about that, because that will prevent us getting bigger matches here, because the facilities for Sky in particular are not good enough, and they're not good enough for people who sit in that stand, and we're not proud of that. So we've put an application in, planning application, to redevelop it. That will give us 3 years upon receipt of that planning application to get that work done. The next challenge will be finding the money to do it, because that will be a chunky check. But the first thing is, let's get the planning, and then we will engage more with people about what that looks like, and what the inside looks like of that building. And then we'll find the money to do something about it. That will be the challenge that I've got, and I'll be looking for support from many people to allow us to do that.
We talk about, obviously, cricket because that is our lifeblood, but obviously we need to look at the shoulder months for the cricket fan, if you like. It is a 365-day-a-year venue. Yep. We're hosting a number of events: the Marcus Trescothick dinner, the Rory Bremner dinner, a Valentine's disco, for want of a better term, for showing my age now. How important is it that the club maximises its revenue streams in order to excel on the field? And how important is it that our members are supportive of these events?
Hugely. I couldn't overstate that. I've said it before that, you know, the members are hugely important. They are the heartbeat of this club, and that's really important. But it's also important that we have a non-match day commercial operation that generates money to fund the cricket, and to help fund the cricket, and to help fund facility development, which is expensive. And that obviously helps the membership experience. So we need the whole thing to be a virtuous circle, and to ensure that we can provide the experience we want to. But we need money from different angles. Membership in itself, sadly, isn't enough. We have to do different things. So we're trying to be creative. And despite COVID, cricket inflation, as I call it, and that means demand for players, the costs of running a professional cricket setup, the costs of running a pathway, are such that we need to find revenue. And we'll communicate heavily about how we're going to do that as and when things evolve.
Just had another question in. Will the club be making any more signings?
Who knows? That's something for Andy. Andy has a budget that he can utilise, and is constantly looking to improve the squad wherever he possibly can, and keeps his ear to the ground. But the great thing about Andy is he won't just rush. Some people said, look, we were slow with our overseas signings. Actually, I thought we were quite timely. We waited for the right one. We said no to a lot before we said yes. And I think that's important. You've got to hold your nerve. And when others are making quick signings, we've got to make the right ones.
Just finally, as I know that time is pressing and people are looking, I don't want to spoil the end of the watch along, just in case people don't know who wins. But you know, if you're a Somerset fan, maybe stay tuned. What message have you got for those people who are watching, those people at home, people who are going to watch this on demand later, ahead of the 2022 season? What can Somerset members and supporters expect from this forthcoming season?
Well, the first thing is enjoy tonight, because I remember where I was when I was watching that game as a nipper.
Where were you?
It wasn't too much of a nipper. I was in Edinburgh, actually. Great game and great outcome, obviously, for us. But I think firstly, we're really, really looking forward to getting people back in, and let's just keep everything crossed that this COVID nightmare we're navigating our way out of that. We're not quite through it, but there is real blue sky ahead, isn't there, on that front? That's great. And so we'll be looking to have a venue which is welcoming for everyone, and where people feel safe. And we know that some people are more cautious than others, and we'll be making sure we've got things in place to reassure people without really smothering them with an experience like last year, which wasn't as enjoyable as perhaps some previous years were. So we're looking forward to having you back. You can look forward to a strong, well-prepared Somerset group playing on the field, and hopefully some great days here at the Cooper Associates County Ground.
Well, let's hope so. For the time being, Gordon Hollins, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
You're very welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.